Charlie Kirk. To some, that name sparks debate. To others, it sparks inspiration. But no matter what side of the aisle you stand on, you cannot deny the impact this one man had on a generation. He was just 31 years old when his story came to a shocking, violent end. Today, we are going to take you through the journey of Charlie Kirk's life, from a quiet suburban childhood to becoming one of the most influential conservative voices in America, and the heartbreaking day when that voice was silenced forever. This isn't just a political story. This is a story about ambition, faith, controversy, tragedy, and legacy. Charlie Kirk was born on October 14, 1993, in Arlington Heights, Illinois. He was the youngest of 3 children and grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, in what many would call an ordinary American neighborhood. But there was nothing ordinary about Charlie. Even as a boy, he was different. Where most kids were focused on sports or video games, Charlie was reading history, listening to political talk radio, and asking questions that even adults struggled to answer. In high school, he joined the junior ROTC and initially dreamed of going to West Point. But when he didn't receive an appointment, Charlie felt the sting of disappointment. And that rejection would become fuel for what came next. Instead of taking the traditional college path, Charlie took a risk few teenagers would dare to take. He wrote an essay for Breitbart about bias in high school classrooms. That single essay caught national attention, and suddenly, Charlie found himself on Fox News at just 18 years old, talking about what he saw as the need to fight back against indoctrination in education. It was a spark. The first spark of what would become a roaring fire. Most young people head to college to find themselves. Charlie skipped that step. At just 18, he founded Turning Point USA in 2012. His mission? Simple but bold, to identify, educate, and organize students to promote the principles of freedom, free markets, and limited government. It started small. Just Charlie, a handful of volunteers, and a dream. He would drive across states in a beat-up car, speaking to whoever would listen. Sometimes just a few students in a classroom, other times a small crowd in a gymnasium. He slept on couches. He ate cheap meals. He hustled every single day. But step by step, campus by campus, Turning Point USA grew. With chapters at more than 3,000 schools, thousands of student activists, and a presence at nearly every major political event in the country, Charlie wasn't just organizing students. He was becoming a voice for a generation. His podcast, The Charlie Kirk Show, quickly climbed the charts, drawing millions of downloads per month. He was invited to speak at CPAC, the White House, and rallies across America. He wasn't just giving speeches. He was shaping conversations. To his supporters, Charlie was a warrior. A man unafraid to stand in front of a hostile audience and say what he believed to be true. And make no mistake, Charlie faced hostility. Protesters showed up at his campus events. Viral videos showed students shouting at him, trying to shout him down. But Charlie would lean into debate, argue, and often walk away with the crowd on his side. His supporters saw him as proof that one person could fight back and win. But with influence came controversy. Charlie was a lightning rod. His critics accused him of spreading division, of being too combative, too polarizing. Social media lit up with arguments about him almost every week. And Charlie embraced it. He once said, "If you're not being criticized, you're probably not doing much of anything." Agree or disagree, there was no ignoring him. September 10, 2025. Utah Valley University, Orem, Utah. Charlie was doing what he loved. Speaking to students face to face, engaging with the next generation. But that evening would end in tragedy. As Charlie stood before the crowd, shots rang out. Chaos erupted. Students screamed. Security rushed to the stage, but in a matter of seconds, it was over. Charlie Kirk. The man who had spent a decade telling young Americans to stand tall and speak up, lay mortally wounded. He was just 31 years old. The news broke within minutes and spread like wildfire across the country. For his supporters, it was unthinkable. Vigils sprang up on campuses across the nation. People held candles, prayed, and wept. Even some of his harshest critics paused to reflect. Political leaders from across the spectrum issued statements. The president addressed the nation, condemning the violence and offering condolences to Charlie's family. At Turning Point USA headquarters, staff gathered in silence. Flags were lowered to half-mast, and Erica Kirk, Charlie's widow, stood before the nation and promised to continue the work they had started together. Charlie's life was short, but it was full. He built one of the most influential youth movements in American history. He created platforms that gave students the courage to speak. He mentored thousands of young leaders who will continue his mission for decades to come. His supporters call him a hero, not because he was perfect, but because he was relentless. Charlie Kirk wasn't just a commentator. He was a builder. He built a movement from nothing. And for many young Americans, he was the first person to tell them that their values, their faith, and their love of country were worth defending. He reminded them that courage is contagious, and that perhaps is the greatest measure of a hero, that his courage inspired courage in others. Charlie Kirk's story is heartbreaking, not just because he died so young, but because of how much he accomplished in just 31 years. He proved that one voice can create a movement, that one teenager with a laptop and a dream can build something that shakes the political landscape. And though his life was cut short, his mission continues. Charlie's chair may now sit empty, but the movement he built still stands. The students he inspired are still speaking. The organization he founded is still fighting. And perhaps that is his greatest legacy, that even in death, Charlie Kirk's voice is still being heard.